Councilor Holmes is excused absent, and Councilor Santiago as well. We're here today to talk about the Columbia County Jail Levy discussion.
Yes. Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings. And as you just heard, this portion of the past week's City Council meeting met to discuss of a multiple set of issues. Chief among those is the sheriff and expressing his concern over funding for the jail. I'm going to interrupt at various points to highlight what's being discussed. But what I'd like to put across is, in case it's missed, number one, you can watch the meeting in full by going to, looking it up and replaying it. It's roughly 30 minutes in length. I tried to whittle it down to just, this little bit. I'm going to do it in two sections. This first section, because of the points that certain individuals draw about. Number one, that Sheriff Pixley draws about that funding is going to expire on June 30, 2025. Number two, Council President Miller states the proximity to Portland and the property crimes that are associated with that proximity. Number four, Councilor Jacobs discusses viability. What are the long-term plans? The sheriff, if you're not aware, is an elected position. This is part of being the sheriff, and that is politicking, fundraising, balancing budgets. Over the past year in particular, I've seen Sheriff Pixley on two other occasions campaigning for passage of a jail bond. So I'm going to let the city council do its thing and allow him to present his information, and they will ask their questions. Again, I'm going to put the link in the description for the full meeting, but this is a highlight reel. This is something that's going to impact people at a local level. So if you are in Columbia County, which is in Northwest Oregon, this is a levy to maintain the collection of 58 cents per $1,000 of tax-assessed property value. If you're not aware, when you buy a property, you get an appraisal that you take to the bank to get your loan or to refinance, but then the tax collector at the county level does a tax assessment, and they send out the annual notice stating that you have the property which is taxed at this amount, and if you have any buildings or improvements, it usually increases that tax amount. And then it includes information as to how those taxes collected are distributed. So around October of each year, you can see the property tax bill of what's being discussed. If you don't have it, you can do one of two things. You can request what's called a TRIO report from your title company to get an overall assessment of the property, or you can contact the tax office and get the website information to be able to pull it up online and review the data for yourself.
Sir, yes. Thank you for having me here today, guys. Today we're gathered here to talk about something that affects not just a few of us, our entire community: safety, security, and how we support our local justice system. As you may know, we're asking voters to renew the existing levy, same rate of 58 cents per $1,000. This is the same rate that we've been paying since the levy was first passed in 2013, 2014. I understand the natural reaction to any tax measure is kind of repulsion. I get that. But I know many of us are already balancing tight budgets. This is simply just a continuation of the current levy that will allow us to keep our jail open, continue to hold offenders accountable. Our jail is more than just a simple holding facility. part of a system that deals with growing challenges, including mental health crisis and substance abuse issues, which often land people in jail. This levy, we can continue to provide resources for rehabilitation programs, mental health care, and substance abuse issues. This can help people turn their lives around and help reduce repeat offenders.
One of the issues that I do have a complaint about is that when he's approaching the city council, whether or not he has already submitted documents that show the rate of recidivism, which, it's just a fancy way of saying the likelihood of becoming a repeat offender, that information isn't readily available. And I would suggest that perhaps when they are providing this information online, that they provide a link to documents that would support this. What is the rate of success of the mental health and drug intervention? If it is successful, excellent. If it's not, how come? What is the dollar per individual incarcerated that's being spent? What is of the average population? What is the percentage that is either mental health and or drug related? These are, in my opinion, are questions that need to be asked. In addition to that, is incarceration an appropriate placement for mental health? And the reason I ask that is because mental health is stigmatized as it is, and I'm not certain that placing them with perhaps what are considered, it's Columbia County. Yeah, there's issues that happen, but it's not exactly there's a reason that when a violent crime happens that it garners attention. It's because it's not frequent. As Council President Miller will address, the likelihood is more towards property crime, not violent crime. You might have a scuffle or something to that effect, but last year, for example, there were a couple of murders that happened about a year ago, roughly 13 months ago. Those got the attention, but there wasn't much beyond that. That was quickly overshadowed 6 months later, 8 months later, by the St. Helens principal when she was outed for covering for all of the inappropriate behaviors of her staff with students. All right, so that is my question is, where's the data that shows that this is investment worthy of Columbia County? And that's not to say it's not worthy, it's just a question. Where's the data that says, yes, this 58 cents per $1,000 of property assessed value is actually showing results that these individuals do not have an instance of becoming a repeat offender? That's number one. Number two, what is the percentage of those who are incarcerated that are mental health, and is this the appropriate measure for handling them? And number three, of the jail population, how much is drug related?
Fewer people end up back in jail. It creates a safer, more stable community for all of us. Let's talk about what this renewal actually means in practical terms. This measure will not raise your taxes at all. The extra money needed to make ends meet in the jail will be raised by renting out additional beds to the U.S. Marshal's Office. Keeping our jail open.
If you didn't catch that part, it's not something that's brought up again. It's that the jail, which I don't know what the Columbia County, I don't know how many beds it has. I don't know how it's divided up. I've been there to get fingerprinted for concealed carry, but beyond that, it's along the way to go, for the swimming pool, to go lap swimming. But beyond that, I've seen Sheriff Pixley at various political events to make his case for jail funding, especially over the last year. But what he does bring up here and does seem to gloss over because of how rapidly it's introduced, covered, and moved on from, is the federal government's U.S. Marshal Service He has a contract with them. So how many beds total are in Columbia County, in the jail? Of those beds, how many are allotted for the U.S. Marshals? Is this a fixed number of beds? And what is the monthly rate that is being secured from the Marshals Service for that bed rate, or for that, setting aside? These aren't bad questions. I'm not putting them down. I'm asking these questions because I think these are questions that are worthy of being asked. I'm not against the Marshals Service using them, because what else are they going to do? Whether it's the Marshals Service or any other, law enforcement agency, when they do an arrest and apprehension, they have to have a facility in which to have them incarcerated. And I'm okay with that, but I would like to know what the contract is.
Safer streets, a justice system that works better for everyone. Finally, this levy is not just about keeping people in jail. It's about building a community where crime is less likely to happen in the first place. Investing in rehabilitation, mental health services, and crime prevention will reduce the burden on law enforcement and help keep our neighborhoods safe. When we invest in the infrastructure and services that make our communities safer, we all benefit. See fewer crimes, fewer victims, and fewer families torn apart. This jail levy renewal is an opportunity for us to do just that. You see Measure 5304 on your ballot. I urge you to not just think about the dollar value, the dollar amount, but about the broader picture. This is about creating a safer, stronger, and more compassionate community. We all can thrive. I hope the city of Scappoose will once again vote to endorse this upcoming jail levy renewal. Really appreciate your guys' time.
The 4-year levy.
Your levy.
How many times have you renewed this levy? 2014,
renewed in 2017, and again in 2020.
Fully in support, and the constituents I've been speaking with over the last few months have expressed their support for this as well. One question, though, that has come up is just regarding the long-term financial viability of the jail. Traditionally, levies are used for one-time events. So looking forward, what is the plan to shore up the jail's finances outside of a levy?
Without an influx of additional funds from the general fund, which I've been assured is is not there. Forward is to have a permanent taxing district in place. It will help support not only the jail, but law enforcement at the county level as a whole. We can do away with all the levies and all of this coming back and forth to the voters every 4 years. Just have some stable funding in place. I don't think the sheriff's office has ever had.
I think too with this is seeing social media and stuff is it's not a new tax. It's not an additional tax. It's just an extension of the tax that's already there. And so getting out the right message, the correct information, people see this and they're, oh, now I've got to pay 58 cents more. No, it's a continuation of what's already been there. So other than the valuation of the property going up, it won't change.
Yeah, and if the Stark renewal is if this levy fails, you run out of funding on June 30th. I'll have a $3.9 million hole in my budget. That's kind of the reality I'm facing right now.
Thing I'd like to point out too, with Scappoose being basically the gateway to Multnomah County, in other words, being so close to Portland, we also often actually fall victim to some of the Portland property-related crimes. Specifically, we have the folks from Portland come out, steal cars in the wee hours of the morning or night, and then take them back to Portland. If I was Rainier, I would be equally concerned with the bridge going over to Longview. So for Scappoose and Rainier, I think this levy should be particularly important. Thank you.
All right. So that's all for Sheriff Pixley's, addressing the council for their endorsement of the upcoming jail levy. What are your opinions on it? The closing remarks are very, I believe are worthy of consideration, and that is in 2.5 months, this being roughly the middle of April, in 2.5 months, nearly $4 million of operational budget will be gone for maintaining the jail. Number two, as Council President Miller addresses, this should be a concerning issue, not only because of the proximity of Scappoose to Portland, because they share a county border, but also for North Columbia County, who shares a bridge between Oregon and Washington. And I've made many derogatory comments about Cowlitz County being the armpit of the state of Washington. I mean, the entire state of Washington is an unclean toilet bowl. Let's not mince words here. Washington is an overflowing, clogged, uncleaned, unmaintained toilet bowl. And if I'm saying Cowlitz County is the disgusting armpit of that, I'm saying that for a reason. I'm saying that in 25 plus years of observing what has happened in Longview as it's descended into chaos, the drug trafficking has migrated slowly but steadily across that bridge into North Columbia County, in particular Rainier, and infected the entire city, town, whatever you want to call Rainier. But regardless, you know, it's rampant. Oregon's, open air use policies of, decriminalizing drugs has failed, and you can join that, as Andy Ngo of the Post Millennial has cited in previous reports, the bottle redemption, where they go and they steal or, obtain bottles and cans for the 10 cents per item redemption. You've got people that are living off of that and buying their drugs off of that and committing additional crimes. So let me know your opinions on the jail levy. As Mayor Backus stated, this is not a new tax. It's just keeping things as they are until, as Sheriff Pixley stated, he's able to campaign for the creation of a permanent law enforcement, related commission.